Hello and welcome back to my channel, I'm ShyWizard. Continuing on in the modding video tutorial series, converting a map from 17 to 19. We left off in part 2, exported this gate, so I'm just going to continue on from there. So we have the gate here which is now completed, just going to continue on working down through the scene graph. And you will get a lot of this backwards and forwards, as I've said before. Again, you know, there are many different ways to do this. You don't have to do it the same way I'm doing it. You could select multiple objects and then export them out as a whole, or however you choose to do it. I'm going to just continue on working down the scene graph because I feel if I start jumping backwards and forwards up and down the scene graph, I'm going to get lost in what I've done and what I need to do. So for me, I think this is going to work better, but doesn't necessarily mean you have to do the same thing. You could select multiple objects and then export them out and make your changes with the shaders and the various other different parts in a much larger selection of items. But for me, I think, like I say, this is going to work better. So I'm just going to continue on here. I might time-lapse some things here because it's just going to be a rinse and repeat sort of scenario. But we'll just do this one here live, and then, like I say, I might just as I go through the next parts, just do some time-lapse stuff. We'll see how we go. So I'm going to export this building out here. This one in particular, I don't know if this has some... No, there's no shaders on any of those. No gloss, no specular, no nothing. So this one should be pretty straightforward. So we'll just do this one real quick. So I'm just going to take this one out, export it out, and then work with this. So again, export selection with files. I'm going to create a new folder on my desktop here. We'll just call it shed or something like that, doesn't really matter. And again, we'll just call it shed. So save, keep the parent directory structure, yes. And we'll have a look at that in its own i3D. So we'll open this one up in the later editor for 19. And that looks pretty good. So let's have a look. We've got some real glossiness, some real metallic kind of look into that. So like I did before with the gate, we're going to need to change the metalness and smoothness to 0 for both of those, because these objects don't have any gloss map applied to them. So to make it look more realistic or whatever, just change the metalness and smoothness down to 0 for both of those. I'll go ahead and save, close that down. I can then go into the 19 version of the Thornbrook map into the maps folder, and we'll just drag all of these in, move them over. We'll merge the textures folder. I can get rid of that one there like so. These ones here I can delete because I've now completed working with those. So we'll open up the 19 version of the map and bring in the shed. So if I come back into a relative position here, file, import, shed, and there we go. So that's now in the map. And like I say, it's just a case of rinse and repeat, doing the same for all of the appropriate objects over the entire map. So I'm going to go ahead and save there and then just continue on. Okay, so as you can see in this particular instance, I don't know why this particular tree, there's something to do with the shader and its compatibility with this particular tree. It's giving some really weird effects over the entire setup. So in this particular scenario, I'm not going to be working with this setup. I'm going to need to try and figure out a different way of working with the trees on this from the 17 version of the map. I don't know why that's actually done that. I have converted trees over in the past without any issues, so I'm going to need to try and find some different parts. I'm pretty sure this has something to do with the shaders themselves and the way that they are. Something has changed with them now in 19, because I've linked them all into the 2019 setup. Yeah, nothing seems to really make any difference there. There are some effect glitches or whatever else. So the trees I'm actually going to leave for now, and then I'll come back to them later on, or potentially work with some different trees and see what I can do with those. So the trees are going to be left alone for now, and then see what's going on with that later on. Okay, so he's done a fair bit there. Had to skip a couple items because of glitches with shaders and possibly other things, which I'm going to need to work out with the trees and whatever. But I think I'm going to call it on this one and then continue on in the next. Just again, you know, rinse and repeat sort of thing. Just continue exporting stuff out. I will possibly do some time-lapse stuff, and then when I come across something that's a bit abnormal or I need to talk about, then you know that's what I will do. But otherwise I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, and then we'll get later on in the series when we start to look at bringing in or setting up triggers and various things like that. I'm ShyWizard, thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.